What that means is the government guarantees $6 billion in losses. That should be able to stimulate $60 billion in private sector finance. Now, that's getting a little more interesting, $60 billion. But when the proposals come out for that, what they're going to ask for is, okay, developers of solar, photovoltaic farms, concentrating solar, many of these technologies, through this program, we'll pay for a third of the total cost. You have to get financing for the other two-thirds. So now we're at $180 billion of investment. So based on a $6 billion guarantee program, you leverage potentially $180 billion of investment. Once again, this obviously puts a lot of people to work. It also has implications for Europe because a lot of these technologies are made here and a lot of it will be bought from here. The hope is that in a number of areas, once this program goes through, it will stimulate the market enough that the price will come down and make renewables, a lot of these renewables, much more competitive. This is also matched by two other programs, not in the stimulus bill, but in other bills. One is a tax credit for renewable energy. So if you invest in renewables, you get lower taxes. And the other is what's called a renewable energy portfolio standard. This is a requirement for utilities to have a certain percentage of their production in renewables, once again, driving a market. The hope is out the other side is renewables become the de facto way in which utilities and others get new power, obtain new power. But I mentioned energy efficiency as being so important. So what's being done there? In my opinion, not enough, but more than was done before. The United States government is the largest single consumer of energy in the world. They have 500,000 buildings. This is one of them. Spread all over the world. For 30 years, they've had a program to reduce energy use in federal buildings, and it's actually been a pretty successful program. Over the past, probably about 8 years, they've spent somewhere between $2 and $3 billion investing in federal buildings to lower the energy use in the buildings. Better lighting, better heating and air conditioning, control systems, whole range of technologies. Stimulus bill, so 8 to 10 years, $3 billion. The stimulus bill has $9 billion for 1 year. So, a huge job creator. Somebody's got to put all that stuff in. Somebody has to make it. Another area that's stimulated that I think will result in a lot of good activities is we deploy energy efficiency in a number of ways, but one of the key ways is every state has a state energy office. They vary from 3 people in a little state to 150 in the big states like California, New York, and Texas. Those programs on an annual basis get about $300 million a year. See, we haven't been investing much in this area, $300 million. And they do good works, good projects. But also, over time, working with the governors, they have quite a big list of projects they would like to do, often in transportation. So next year, they were getting $300 million a year. In the stimulus bill, they get $6.3 billion. All of a sudden, they can fund all these projects that have been lining up. And many states are going to create technology funds, funds for renewable energy and other technologies. Perhaps the biggest employer, and remember this is all being done to put Americans back to work, is the low-income weatherization program. The U.S. has, in the U.S., about 1,000 community groups improve the energy efficiency, weatherize low-income people's homes, poor people's homes, people that are retired, elderly, poor people. That program also about $300 million a year, each year. And they're getting somewhere about, I believe, about $5 billion. So immediately, thousands and thousands of young people, maybe kids that didn't study as hard as you did, who maybe dropped out of school and don't have any jobs, can get jobs and go out and help their community and learn some skills and get back to work. At the same time, weatherizing about 2 million poor people's homes, reducing their fuel bills by about 30% from now on. All this stimulus bill, though, is really part of a much larger strategy, both on the international level and the domestic level. I mentioned we have our climate bill that's moving through the House of Representatives now. Hopefully it will pass, and it will create a cap-and-trade program. This is the climate approach many people advocate, where you set a limit on pollution and you have trading permits between various polluters, and then over time you ramp the cap down and you create a market, a value on those. So it's thought of as an efficient way of putting a price on carbon to mitigate or to lessen the economic impact on any given industry. This, if it passes, this is a huge change in the United States. People often in my field say, for many years, the United States does not have an energy policy. I've heard that 1,000 times. I always thought that was wrong. We did provide as much energy as cheap as possible. That was the energy policy in the U.S. This will change. This is a fundamental change. And over time, it's a rather weak cap-and-trade proposal at this point, but over time this will be ramped up. The regular energy budgets are going to be increasing. This coming year increases about 15%, and it'll increase like that each year. So that's another aspect. A lot more research. And then there is a regulatory aspect. The Environmental Protection Agency has ruled that carbon dioxide is a pollutant under our Clean Air Act. This is the act that affects utilities and requires lowering emissions of what's called SO2 and NOx and various pollutants. Well, now carbon dioxide has been added to that. That had not been the case before. And so, part of the strategy is, if you don't get a cap-and-trade bill, then you regulate. The cap-and-trade bill really is designed to make the business community happier. So if there's opposition to the cap-and-trade, then it'll move towards a regulatory approach. So it's a very coordinated program. It's very involved. It is still evolving. But it's going to help put people back to work, and it's going to help create a new green energy future. And I think that it has caused a lot of interest around the world, and it has a lot of aspects, a lot of parts, which other countries like Italy could use in the same kind of way. So thank you. It was really thrilling to, as I said, to talk to people that are going to be doing this, working on this issue long after the people in the front row are all gone. And you have your job cut out for you. Thank you.